let me make very clear the position of my government and our country. We do not condone torture. I have never ordered torture. I will never order torture. The values of this country are such that torture is not a part of our soul and our being. And I know you know who said this. Our former President, George W. Bush. I quote, "Under the hood, I felt I could not breathe properly. It pulled in and out against my mouth and nose with every breath. Flashing lights, obviously from soldiers' cameras taking trophy pictures, came and went in front of me, despite the hood's darkness. From beside me, a voice said in Arabic, 'Shall we pray, brother?' A guard came and screamed in my ear, 'Shut up, Mother X. If you speak again, I'll kill you.'" End quote. This is a quote from Moazzam Beg, a second-generation British Muslim who wrote in the book Enemy Combatant, My Imprisonment at Guantanamo, Bagram, and Kandahar. I quote, "We do not kick the X out of them. We send them to other countries so they can kick the X out of them." As reported by one of the anonymous US intelligence officials, reported in Washington Post and quoted in the famous book The Dark Side by Jane Meyer. I was severely tortured while in the security custody. I was placed in a refrigerated underground room and deprived of almost all clothing. I was severely beaten on the back, legs, head, and the soles of my feet. They kicked me with their military boots in my liver area, even after I disclosed that I have a liver condition. On some occasions, they beat me so badly that I passed out for extended periods of time and believed I would die. On at least one occasion, they strapped my arms and legs down to an electric chair while threatening to use it. During the course of the torture sessions, the captors threatened my life and the life of my wife and my children. Naji Hamdan, a US citizen, father of 3, and a former resident of the city of Hawthorne in Southern California, who due to intense FBI harassment left United States, went to live in Middle East. He was detained, imprisoned by the UAE at the behest of our country, United States, and tortured. And the words I read were his. There are hundreds of other innocent men, women, and children who continue to languish in Guantanamo, such as Abtani, Qahtani, Shimari, Quraishi, Zahrani, and Umar Qadr, the youngest of all, a 15-year-old who at one point made a plea to his captors, "Kill me. Please kill me." Our country can now imprison any person within or outside the United States, bar them from any access to the courts, and throw them in any prison anywhere, and then torture them. Confronting the US-sponsored torture, my friends, is our collective responsibility and a moral imperative of our times. It is my distinct privilege and honor to introduce our guest speaker, Jameel Jaffer. Jameel received his academic education from Cambridge and Harvard and now works with ACLU as its Director of National Security Project. Jameel did not believe in the story that Abu Ghraib is an act of a rogue soldier because he believes in the adage, "I question, therefore I am." And question he did. Jameel filed FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, in October of 2003 to make sure that America did not torture and did not violate its own laws. And of course, his request was not denied, but not honored either. He then files a lawsuit on behalf of the ACLU and American people, you and I, against the Department of Defense, and eventually receives documents about the US-sponsored torture, abuse, and torture in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo. The release of these documents, also known now as torture memos, is now said to be, I quote, the most successful in the history of public disclosure. New York Times. Justice Louis Brandeis had famously remarked, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Along with Amrit Singh, a staff attorney from ACLU, Jameel exposed the secret torture memos to the sunlight in his now famous book, Administration of Torture, a documentary record from Washington to Abu Ghraib and beyond. For some of us here, Jameel means in Arabic graceful, and Jaffer means a running stream. Borrowing the words of Martin Luther King, let the justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Join me in welcoming my brother Jameel Jaffer.
That was a very embarrassing introduction. But, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here, and I want to thank in particular Shakil for having put this together. It's for an ACLU lawyer. It's a special privilege to come to Southern California because we have an affiliate here that is arguably the best ACLU affiliate in the country. And they do amazing work on many issues, including national security and immigration, First Amendment issues. And I know some of you have worked with the affiliate before, but if you haven't had the chance to work with our affiliate, one thing you should do is get in touch with them and see if there's work that you can do in collaboration with them, because they're really great. So I wanted to talk for not very long about this case that resulted in the disclosure of some of the torture documents. But before I do that, I want to give you a sense of some of the other issues that my project is working on in New York right now, because I think there's the sense amongst many that the issues that are the national security / civil liberties issues have changed under the new administration, and unfortunately, I don't think that's true. Our docket right now, our litigation docket right now, looks very much like it did a year and a half or 2 years ago. We're still litigating cases involving Guantanamo. We're still litigating cases involving unchecked government surveillance. We're still litigating challenges to the exclusion of foreign scholars like Tariq Ramadan and Adam Habib. We are still litigating the same kinds of dissent and discrimination cases that we were litigating 18 months ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. There have been some changes. This administration is not the same as the last administration. There have been some changes. But continuity is the norm and discontinuity is the exception. On virtually every front, this administration has thus far continued the policies of the last one. So those are, so unfortunately our work at the ACLU is very much like it was under the last administration. Some of you will have seen that over the last few months, Attorney General Holder has announced a criminal investigation into the CIA's torture program. We have been saying at the ACLU that this investigation is too narrow. And I want to spend my time telling you why it is that we think this investigation is too narrow. This is an investigation that examines the responsibility of interrogators who exceeded their authority. In other words, interrogators who did not only what they were ordered to do, but who went beyond what they were ordered to do. In one case, an interrogator held a gun to a prisoner's head and threatened the prisoner with death if he didn't talk. In another case, a prisoner was beaten to death in CIA custody. So these are awful crimes, and they should be investigated. But these are investigations, or this investigation examines the responsibility of people who didn't follow orders, people who went beyond the orders. Thus far, there is no investigation of the people who gave orders. There's no investigation of the people who ordered the CIA to use certain abusive practices, and there's no investigation of the lawyers